one thing that did surprise me was as much as I learned in PA school, like starting in the ER, like the learning curve for the first like year and a half, and even now like 2.5 years into it is so steep. I mean, now it's like tapered off a little bit, and I feel like I'm not just treading water every shift. But man, for a year and a half, I was like, I was a paramedic before, and I went through PA school. Like, I should be able to work in the ER, but I mean, they just throw things at you so quick, and you have to be so efficient that, man, I was very shocked by the amount of learning you have to do, you know, even after school, even in the ER, you know. And I mean, some of these other specialties, I'm sure it's just as steep, you know. You don't have time to go and Google everything. You've got to know your stuff, and you got to know it quickly.
That does give me a little bit of caution, you know, I mean, and that's why I'm not willing to tell you that should I be so fortunate to complete my education and graduate, that the ER is the next best thing for me, the right fit, because, you know, I respect medicine at that level too much to say that I know that I'm going to be ready, because I don't know.
That's good.
You know, and I'm not too proud to say that I might need a few years working elsewhere. If I ultimately want to end up in the ER, I may not be ready when I'm done with school. I might, but I might not. You know, I don't know. I don't know quite yet how I'm going to fit. But
right. But I get your point, and I get her point. Like, it was way harder than I thought it would be. You know, it was a shock to the system to really realize how much learning you have to do after PA school. But I mean, that's what paramedics are good at, though. I mean, that's what a lot of being a paramedic is too. I mean, paramedics will only prepare you so much, and you do so much learning on the job too. I mean, that's what's, you know, another similarity that, you know, is very
you have to adapt. You have to adapt, and paramedics are known for standing up to the challenge, right? I mean, you know, you're faced with something that you're not necessarily prepared for, but you're gonna do it anyway, and you know, you're gonna do whatever it takes to do it. And I think that you bring up a point of efficiency, and I don't know if I'll be efficient. I don't know. I've never been a PA before, right? I mean, I know how to be a pretty good paramedic, right? And I'm comfortable saying that, but you know, I don't know if I'm going to be a good PA yet. You know, I certainly hope so. You know, I think that I've got a certain foundation that I'm building and that I have built that is going to help me be successful, but am I going to be efficient in the ER? Could it be too much for me? I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
And I hope it slows down for me. You know, I hope. I mean, I haven't been in there yet, but I hope as a provider it will slow down enough for me where I can be more of an asset as a student than, you know, a detriment. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, I don't want to, like, if I'm with you, I don't want to slow you down. You know, and I know I will. Like, but like, how much? You know, and do I get better over time?
Yeah.
You know, a month in the ER enough time to get me to a place where when I apply for a jobs that, like, yeah, I had a month in a rotation, I did okay. You should hire me. I think I'm a good fit. Like, is that going to be enough? I don't know. You know, but
well, I think that humble attitude and kind of understanding your limits is kind of the mindset you need to exceed in whatever specialty you decide to go into. I think that's all people want, is somebody who can take on the challenge and not think they know it all, you know?
Yeah, man, I know I don't know it all. You know, I'm more than comfortable. That's the most comfortable thing I am. I'm most comfortable thing to say for me is that I know that I don't know everything. That's for sure.
What advice would you give, you know, Brian Sanfilippo 5 years ago, or, you know, EMT Aaron that wants to go to PA school down the road? What advice would you kind of have for them generally?
Do your research, figure out what program you want to go to, what type of programs that interest you, and figure out what you need to meet those prerequisites. Do something interesting, right? Do something for your community, do something philanthropic, stand out from the page. You know, I got the fire department and the police department involved in a coloring book and crayon drive that we donated to the children's hospitals in Colorado Springs. It made the news. It was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
It wasn't like a huge deal, but you know, we came together as public service to do something like that. Study hard, get good grades. They do matter, right? I mean, like, if you've done everything great and your GPA is on the cusp, that might be the reason that you didn't get in. And I think the last thing is don't give up. If this is your dream, if you have to apply 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, you just do it. Because if you don't try, if you don't try hard enough, the day that you decide not to try might have been the time that would have worked for you.
Yeah.
I've talked to physicians who applied to med school 7 times. I talked to countless PA students who applied more than once. And in essence, I feel like part of the rite of passage is to deal with not getting in, because it makes you stronger. It proves to these programs that you want it.
Yeah.
And are you getting better? Are you improving your application every time? And when it comes to the interview, once you get one, you can't have the attitude that I interview well, so I'm going to go knock it out the park.
Yeah.
You should get somebody to give you some professional advice on how to interview. And I only paid like $100 or something, like $120 for my interview workshop, but it was invaluable. I gained so much from that feedback I got. I gained so much from that I utilized that to its fullest potential. And that's the difference between getting in and not, right? You have to be able to also be honest with yourself and ask yourself if you're willing to do what it takes. I've seen some of my classmates get into PA school and not really understand what it takes. And to be honest, they're not willing to make the sacrifices that are necessary to succeed. And if you're the paramedic who thinks that they've learned enough and that it's going to be a breeze, a little bit of humility would benefit you. I personally didn't have a ton of volunteer or shadowing hours. I think it has a little bit more to do with the fact that I had other commitments outside of work, like, my family and stuff. But I certainly would have liked to put more volunteer hours in. But that's why I did that philanthropic type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was fun to do, honestly. I enjoyed doing it. But you can't just say that you care. You have to do something about it.
Yeah, you got to prove it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really care about people. I want, the underserved community to have better access to medicine. Well, how are you going to do it? Like, what can you do? Like, do something that's interesting, right? Do something that's different, right? Prove that you're willing to do something and not just talk about it. I think that is a huge difference in the application. And of course, not being somebody who audits applications, I don't know how emphasized that is, how important that is, but I feel like that's what stood out on my application potentially.
Yeah.
That and my years of experience, that goes a long way too.
Yeah. Yeah. And for people that are, for EMTs and paramedics that are debating it, I really encourage them to do it. I feel like it is the right path to go if you're inclined to. I think a lot of people are born to be paramedics, and if you're satisfied with that milestone, that's great. Go be the best paramedic you can be. But if you're curious about becoming an advanced practice provider, I really think it's a great path to go. I don't regret it. I think it was worth it. And I know you're not done, but I'm sure you're going to think it's worth it when you're done. And, you're going to set up your family for success too. That the time you're sacrificing now, it's going to be worth it later. You're going to have a much better work-life balance, and, be encouraged, Brian. You're going to do it. I believe in you. I know you're taking it one test at a time. I remember taking it one test at a time, but you're going to make it. You went through the hard part, which honestly is getting in, right?
I don't know, man. That was at the time, it was the hardest part, and I agree. It is the hardest part. You're going to have to put the work in once you get in, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. They're not going to just give it to you, you know.
Yeah.
And one thing I can kind of echo what you're saying is, and I might have said it earlier, but I truly believe that pre-hospital medicine, especially 911 and even in a facility transfer type stuff, if you work as an EMT or a paramedic, that really is an education in itself, to prepare you for that next step should you want it. I remember feeling mostly satisfied with my career ambitions as a paramedic, but there was something missing. And I always felt like it wasn't enough. And, I felt like I had a reach. My reach in medicine was far. I felt like it was far to begin with, but then the more I did it, the more I felt like it wasn't long enough. And that's why I pursued being a PA. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people who feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Short of being a Navy corpsman, I don't think that there's, or like maybe a nurse, I don't think that there's a better profession to prepare you for that next step.
Yeah, I agree.
PA,
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. I don't think I have any other questions for you. I think this will be really valuable though for people that are debating it to digest and kind of see truly how hard it is and how much you got to devote to it, and kind of a glimpse into the life of what a PA student looks like. And hopefully helps them kind of make that decision whether it's worth their time, or whether they're like, you know what, I don't have what it takes. I don't think I can do it. And that's an okay decision too. But my goal is to kind of help people make that decision one way or the other, because I think it's the right career path. I think it's totally worth it. But everybody's got to make that decision for themselves. So.
I mean, we could do like a 20-minute, 25-minute segment on a day in the life, right?
Mm-hmm.
First semester versus second semester versus summer, and then maybe during rotations, way different, right? A day in the life would certainly be enlightening.
Yeah.
And I can't offer anything in the clinical aspect of that, but every hour of your day is accounted for, and for me, sleep and self-care tends to be the lowest priority, and because there's a lot riding on it. So I think and we don't have to be the only resource on that, and I would certainly be willing and open to answering questions that people might have about my personal experience. But it's still a privilege to be here. I haven't lost that, and I feel like, just if I could say this real quick, even though I feel like paramedic school has prepared me immensely for this step, I look around my classroom and I look at all the people, and once you get to know these people, man, there's some special people around you, and it's really easy to look around and be like, man, like these are really cool people. They've done a lot of really cool stuff, and they might be young, but they are really impressive. These are really intellectual, driven, ambitious, great people who are going to make medicine good for a lot of places.
That's a good point.
And so to be part of that community is also it's humbling, and it's also an honor. So
well, if people watch this and come up with questions, I'd love to talk to you again, and we can run through their questions and talk more about what it looks like to be in PA school. And I mean, of all the people I know, you're in the thick of it right now. So I mean, you have a great perspective, and I love your mindset about it too, because I feel like now that I'm out from it a little bit, I'm kind of like, how dare they say I didn't have any bedside manner? But when you're in it, like, you got to realize this is what it is, and just be grateful that you're there, and this is what you're getting to do. So I think that's a great mentality.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, people are gonna stereotype, but they're gonna generalize, and I think you have to understand when they're talking to you and when they're not. And sometimes they're talking directly to you. Sometimes they're talking to everybody else. There's still a message in there for you. Mm-hmm. Maybe your bedside manner is good, but it's not a bad thing to be reminded how important it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had an ethics case that talked about bedside manner regarding certain social aspects of care, of people's daily lives. And it really does go a long way. I mean, patients want to feel comfortable with their provider. And if you're not being nice to them, I mean, it's not hard to be nice, right? I mean, it doesn't cost anything. It's all on you. It's a decision. And, and it also is important to remember that you can get burned out, and it can be gradual. You may not notice it. But sometimes you have to sit back and reflect on how you are as a clinician and as a person. How am I being received by my patient?
Yeah, that's good.
So anyways, I know we could talk about that for much longer time.
Yeah. Well, maybe we will. I'm going to have Casey Shiflett hopefully next week to talk about kind of burnout and stuff because I think he'll have some good perspective. But anything else you want to say here in the last minute or so that we didn't get to?
Other than thank you, Aaron, for having me. It's a privilege. I hope that I can meet you professionally at your level someday. I'm excited about the path I'm on, and I'm going to continue to work hard. And I hope to be working alongside you someday.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for your time, Brian. I know you're super busy and you probably got hours of studying to do tonight. So
I do.
I believe in you, man. You're going to make it through. I know it's one test at a time, but you're going to get there, man. So I'll leave you to it and stop using up your time.
I appreciate you. Have a good night.
All right. See you, Brian.
Bye.
All right, guys. Hopefully you got some good value out of that. I really had fun talking to Brian and catching up. If you have questions for him, just comment them and I can kind of collect them and we can always talk to Brian again and get more into the nitty gritty of PA school if you have specific questions for him, especially in the context of his EMS background. I think it's super helpful to see what challenges he has in PA school, and I think his mentality towards it is super valuable to kind of understand because that's what you have to be successful. And hopefully it motivated some of you guys to realize that you can do it even though it's hard and take the steps to move in that direction. If you guys found value in this, I'd love it if you comment, share it, like it, subscribe, do all the things so that I can keep doing these and find you guys and provide more content. If you have ideas for episodes, send those to me as well. And I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, guys, and just know that there are very few professions where you can actually say you genuinely saved someone's life. That opportunity doesn't come every single day. It does happen, so you need to be prepared for it when it's there for you. So go out there and be the best provider that you can be, and I'll see you guys next time.